If you're a movie fan who spent any amount of time on the internet, you would have probably heard of Rotten Tomatoes at this point. You would probably also have heard of the hatred that it tends to get from people, with so many people arguing that Rotten Tomatoes is just bad for film. But here's the thing, I don't actually think that Rotten Tomatoes is bad for film. I think that the way that you use it is. Now, those of you who listen to the podcast that I'm a part of, the Star Wipe Lounge, would have heard an episode where I was speaking with my friend, Thomas Wells, and we discussed Rotten Tomatoes and sort of how he looks at it. And it really got me thinking about the way that we use Rotten Tomatoes. See, your average person looks at the Tomatometer score and thinks that that is sort of a grade for the film. But that's not accurate, and I'm gonna explain why. See, the way that the Tomatometer works is it actually takes a bunch of reviews and sort of looks at if the review is positive or negative. And then it takes an average out of those, figuring out how many people out of this pool of reviewers thought the film was positive. And that's where we get the Tomatometer score. Now, a film review can be considered positive and still point out flaws with the film. However, within Rotten Tomatoes systems, it's still considered a positive review. So it still counts positively towards the Tomatometer. And I'm saying positive a lot. Now, as I said, people tend to look at the Tomatometer like a score for the film, when really they should be looking at it as sort of a sample size. Let me use an analogy to explain a little bit better. So within American schools, you have a certain grading system. You know, 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is a C, etc., etc., etc. So let's say you have 100 assignments over the course of a term. And let's say you turn in every single one of them and you get a 71% on every single thing you turn in. Naturally, you would look at that and think, oh, well, I'm gonna get a 71% in the class overall. However, the way the Tomatometer works is it would look at your assignments, see that you passed them, and then count that as a passing assignment. So if you turned in everything and it was all 71%, according to the Tomatometer way of doing things, you would come out of that class with 100%. Now, that doesn't tell you anything about how well you did on the assignments or the tests or anything like that. It just tells you that you did everything and that it was positive. Now, let's say that you have 100 reviewers and they all give positive reviews for a film, but the review scores are around about 71 out of 100. The overall reviews would tell you that a film is a 71% movie. It's a C. However, the Tomatometer would reflect that by seeing all of these reviews are positive, so it gets 100%. Are you starting to kind of see the flaws in the way that we look at the Tomatometer? Now, the way that you should be looking at things is actually by looking at it as a review sample. So let's look at this in some real world examples. Thor Ragnarok right now is sitting in the 90s on Rotten Tomatoes. So you can look at that score, and what that tells you is that 90% of reviewers thought it was a good movie. They didn't necessarily say that it was gonna like set the world on fire or that it was necessarily even an A+ quality film. They just said that they liked it. Now let's look at something like Daddy's Home, which is below 20% on the Tomatometer. So that means that of the reviewers who looked at the film, less than 20% of them said that they liked it. Now this sort of sounds bad, but the way that you should be looking at this isn't necessarily that Daddy's Home is a bad movie. It just says that not everyone likes it. So let's say you saw a trailer for Daddy's Home 2 or some of the marketing material or something, and you saw it and you thought that you would like that movie. You might be part of that below 20% who enjoyed it. All the Tomatometer is there for is to tell us sort of statistically whether you'll enjoy a film or not. It isn't a 100% guarantee of a film's quality. It's also important to note that Rotten Tomatoes is only really a problem if you let it be. As a moviegoer, if you let the Tomatometer dictate which films you're gonna go see, you might be missing out on films that you enjoy. For instance, I absolutely enjoyed the Power Rangers film, but that film didn't exactly do great on the Tomatometer. Yet I still went and saw it. Or just like Batman v Superman, that was another film that had a low Tomatometer rating that I still enjoyed. And I know people who really liked Suicide Squad, even though that movie got kind of dumped on in the reviews. Also, don't forget that in addition to the Tomatometer, there's also the audience score. Now, yes, that can be manipulated by people doing multiple reviews or artificially boosting the score, but usually it's a pretty good metric to sort of measure your own interest against. So let's say that you're a fan of DC films and Justice League's Rotten Tomatoes score comes out and it's super low. but the audience score is super high. There's a pretty good chance that you're still going to enjoy the film because the audience score, those are the people who actually go and see the movies, who are fans of the franchises, they are saying that it's good. And again, you might be part of that lower percentage of people who enjoyed the film. So do not let the tomato meter steer you away from a film. So in the end, is Rotten Tomatoes destroying film? Is it terrible for the industry? Not really, no. It's just a review aggregate. They don't really do much. Sure, they have reviews of their own, but everybody can review anything. They're not that special. It's more about us as moviegoers and the way that we view Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes is only able to have as much power as they do over the industry because we let them. So the problem isn't with Rotten Tomatoes, it's with us. But I want to know what you think. If you agree with me, be sure to leave a comment down below. And while you're down there, you can subscribe and click the little bell icon to be notified when I upload new videos. Thanks for watching and have a good one.